beautiful people, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I'm bringing you Pete Davis. So a few weeks ago, Pete got in contact with me and shared his story and about his business, Ampjar. And I am so thankful that he got in contact with me because whatever him and his wife are doing for the community and for the small businesses are amazing. So continue watching to find out more about it. And if you are a parent who also owns a business, continue watching because guess what? He is a father to two 5-year-old twins. And if you're thinking about being a parent, continue watching as well because he is gonna share some tips about what you can prepare for before you get busy in your bedroom. Anyways, so I am super excited for Pete to share about what Ampjar is all about and of course for him to share his story with you. So enjoy!
Before I start asking you questions, I just want to say thank you and I'm very grateful for our encounter and I can't wait for more people to know about Ampjar and for you to share your story with more people.
Love it. Thank you so much.
And I would love to know, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling okay. We've got 5-year-old twin girls and it's kind of like a roller coaster. And so right now they're doing a bit of Italian lessons because this is the last day of homeschooling. And so they're doing some Italian before school starts and then we should go nice and calmly. But it just means everything's a bit of a roller coaster. You don't wake up and have your usual routine. We had to play a cat board game this morning at 7 a.m. and so good, but lots of life stuff.
Well, thank you for telling everyone that you got the twin girls because I was going to ask you more about it later on. But I would love you to share about your story and about Ampjar. How did it started? Share it with the people.
Yeah, totally. So the background is, I used to run a digital marketing agency here. I'm based out of Melbourne, Australia. We were pretty early into that space. There's a whole social media kind of space. So it was 2009. We kicked it off late 2009, and we started talking to pretty big brands because there weren't many people out there doing that kind of thing. And so we were able to work with. We actually went and pitched we went to NAB one time and pitched them and did some work with them as like this little tiny agency because no one knew about social and we did. And so we worked with banks, we worked with big fashion brands, we took Tony Bianco, the footwear company, when we took them over, they had 5,000 friends. And then when we finished up working with them, they had 300,000 followers on Facebook and it's just like crazy interesting stuff. So yeah, it was myself and my wife, we built this digital marketing agency. We sold it to private equity in late 2016, which was quite a good experience and quite an interesting journey. And then, we found that this is when the girls kind of came along and my wife would order from all these little brands that she would find on Instagram all the time. So brands that were privately owned by, someone who runs their own company, doing their own thing. Maybe they've spun up a Shopify or a Wix or a Squarespace site or something like that. And we saw all these brands would put a handwritten note in their parcel, which was so different to working with, big brands, which was churning out production and churning out packages and all that kind of stuff. And I just loved it. I loved what they were doing and what they really stood for. So basically we said, look, I love this part of marketing. I wonder if there's something we could do to help them. And so we actually launched as a tool that builds email campaigns for brands using their most popular social content. So we just helped them in a really simple way to send out emails because we knew how valuable they were. And the biggest thing that we saw was that these brands had incredible open rates and click rates. So when we worked with the biggest brands like Burt's Bees and John Frieda and Biore and all those kind of like Clarins and all that kind of stuff, the open rate that you hope for in an email is like the high teens, is like 18, 90% is a great result. And a couple of percent click rate is incredible. But these brands, their average open rate was 42%, average click rate was like 5.5%.
Wow.
It wasn't us, it was them. They were amazing. So, sorry, I know this is a longish story, but when we spoke to these brands about what was really important to them. And they said the biggest thing is finding new customers. That's the biggest challenge. So we said, well, I wonder if there's a way where you've got this audience of people who love you and open your emails and talk to you and really want to be a part of what you're doing. And so does this brand over here. So we've got all these brands that have really great followings who really listen to them. I wonder if there's a way that these brands could shout each other out to help this brand meet these customers and this brand's customers meet these brands' customers. And so, yeah, basically fast forward to where we are now. Ampjar is a platform where brands jump in, they answer a bunch of profiling questions. We match them up with other brands in our community, and then they can shout each other out. And so you shout each other out in a way that it can be through social, through email, through your post-checkout page on your website. And these brands, when they shout each other out, they get rewarded for it. So you get rewarded with credits. And so it just means that every time you shout someone out, you're doing something good for yourself as well.
Yeah, wow.
There's a long answer.
That's amazing. Did you both study marketing or something?
So I did. My wife was a journalist by trade, and she got a much higher enter score than me, but I was just the marketer. And so I did a bunch of marketing stuff, and yeah, it just kind of worked. So she was creative director, I was like managing director, and it just meant that we sort of found each other's parts of the business, which we were really good at. She was really good at looking after staff. I was better at dealing with clients. It just kind of worked well that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Speaking of staff, how many employees do you have right now?
So we have 14. We're fully, they call it fully distributed, so fully remote team all over the world. We have people in Australia, so we have a few people here in Melbourne. We've got someone up on the coast, in near Gold Coast kind of area. But then also Shanghai, Singapore, the Philippines, East Coast, West Coast US, in the middle of the US, Europe. So yeah, we're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, that's amazing. Has it been like that since day one?
No, so this was like fully bootstrapped by me in terms of we just wanted to do something, started it off and started to get some traction, but it was never fast enough to go and like keep on adding. So we actually went to, I'm not sure when it was, like just over a year ago, I went to Silicon Valley and did the whole Silicon Valley thing. And we just met a bunch of investors and went down that path, and we raised a couple of $1 million from US investors.
Wow.
Yeah, so most of our investors are based out of New York. So we've got like 3 major investors in our company, and 2 of them are in New York and 1's in San Francisco. And so, yeah, I mean, normally I would be over there 4 or 5 times a year. And right now, obviously, I haven't been able to be there since February. So, yeah, it's just will be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, we've got these investors who we talk to on the phone every couple of weeks, and yeah, that's how we were able to build the team.
Yeah, definitely. So I think because of COVID, a lot more companies would need to get used to having their staff work remotely. What has been the toughest or the easiest having your staff work remotely?
The trickiest thing I find is that as the founder, you find yourself being the one that has to flex the most. So as the founder, I'll say to someone in New York, it's like, yeah, of course I'll get up at 6 a.m. and talk to you. Of course I can. Like, why not? It's always fine. And then to the guys, we've got a guy in Egypt and we've got a couple of guys in Minsk and Belgrade. And I'll say to them, yeah, of course I can do a 9:30 p.m. call. Of course I can. Like, why not? So I'd just be watching TV otherwise, or just be like relaxing and just doing family stuff otherwise. So that's fine. I can definitely do that. And so what you find is that your day becomes like start at 6, finish at 10. And it's like an everyday kind of thing like that. And then even into the weekend, obviously, like the people in West Coast US, their Friday doesn't like finishes on our Saturday at midday-ish. And so it just means that you wake up on a Saturday and it's like, okay, well, I'm still working here. Like I can't not work here right now. So that's quite tricky. I would say like as a business owner, it means that we can access talent in all parts of the world, which there's probably 2 parts to that. One is that you can obviously get, there's a much bigger pool of people to choose from and you're interviewing people all over the world. But I would say that there is also a price part. There's a price component of it. Is that if we were based in San Francisco or if we were based in New York or like or out of Melbourne, for instance, we would pay a lot more for some of the stuff that we pay less for in different parts. So to get you can have a developer who is paid $60,000 in Europe, and they're like, I'm living like a king. This is amazing. I don't need anything. I'm absolutely totally fine. Whereas over here in Melbourne, you just couldn't get that. So there is, I think, like founder to founder, there is that component that's worth being really honest about. And I actually saw this morning, Mark Zuckerberg came out talking about Facebook doing more remote, moving to more remote themselves as a company. And no one ever mentions the price, but the price is relevant because the price means that, well, you can hire 2 people instead of hiring, you can hire like 3 people instead of hiring 2 people. So it is really relevant to think about as the founder. Like, yes, you can get better talent in different areas, and yes, it's easier to pick. You're never not able to hire someone. But the price is worth talking about as well. Is that you can make someone really happy where they are, give them a great salary for where they are in the world, and do something that works for you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for being so honest. So for those who are listening and watching, yeah, this is a very good tip. But for some companies, I feel like they're still a bit iffy and afraid to go remotely. What would be your, let's say, number 1 tip for them?
The hiring process is critical. So if you go through a process and you find that someone's not very comfortable talking on camera, or there's a lot of, it feels like their home life doesn't sound as like calm and settled as you would like it to be, that kind of stuff is really opening a door, because that's what you're going to be dealing with every single day. So when you're hiring, you need to think about those small things as well as the big things. Is that making sure that, like, were they good at knowing how to schedule a meeting? Were they good at knowing how to get going on Zoom? It's like, oh yeah, I didn't have Zoom, so sorry I'm a bit late. I had to go and download Zoom. It's like, well, okay, that taught me a few things. You didn't think ahead. You weren't using the tech before, which is maybe a little bit odd, but not a deal breaker. But it kind of, all this stuff kind of adds up. So you find that even if like you're hiring overseas, being able to talk to someone face to face, you need to be able to have even though we have different native languages, do we have like a perfect flow of being able to talk? Because if you don't, if you have to slow things down, step things out, you'll be doing that every single day of your life. Yeah. So I think the use the interview process to your advantage, and yeah, don't get stuck saying, oh wow, I could hire someone even cheaper in this other country who is gonna, maybe we'll have some language challenges, but that'll be fine because I'm saving this much money. That's not what it's about. Like, the money comes into it at some level, but don't get yourself in a spot where you just go like to a place that's really going to make life difficult for you.
Yeah, good point. Is it, to you personally, is it important to hire personality rather than skill set?
I think like hiring for culture is really important, but also you have to realize that culture is really different everywhere else around the world. So I think if you're hiring a team of 10 people in Melbourne, it helps if everyone's a footy fan and you can have a jumper day and you can go to the footy together or whatever else. Like, sure. But culture means really different things to different people. And so here, like the people that we have in Australia and the people we have in the US, I love it when they're big advocates for small brands. Like, a part of an interview question I'll say to them is, tell me about a small brand that you most recently bought. And they'll always say like, oh, it's this candle brand over here that I have, or it's this plant, like I bought this plant or this watch, or things that I just have around me. You know, it's like, it's natural to them to say, I love supporting these small brands. But when you talk to a developer, we got a developer in Alexandria in Egypt, and I love him. He's a great guy. He's not someone who supports small brands in that same kind of way. You know, he probably shops at the local bazaar and he goes here and he buys what he buys and he does his thing, but it's not the same. He's not doing it in a way that like supports buying from small brands. He does it because that's just life and that's how it works there. And so culture's a different thing, and he doesn't know footy. And you can introduce him to the sport. And so you're looking more so for a relationship where you can say, the fundamentals of what we have here, I can see that I can build upon. The skill set, I think, in this kind of scenario has to be, it's skill set and attitude more so than being culture. So culture is valuable, but cultures, like you're literally throwing out the rule book for cultures, because nothing you're hiring for leans on the things that we hire for when we're trying to amass an office of people who are going to work together every single day.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Good point. Speaking of supporting small businesses, have you and your wife always support the local community and shop local?
I think we have. So I'm trying to think back to life like before the twins came along, because that was definitely the moment where we just became the ultimate consumers, and you just start to then have choice, and you get to say, do I want to buy this from Cotton On, or do I want to buy this from this little brand over here that does this thing? And so that for us becomes a really nice, obvious choice that we get to make. But I think we always did. I think all of us like being able to say that I want to buy something that gives me that sense of joy or a sense of belonging. We're in this part of the world, we're up in country Victoria, and I like buying some jam from there because that makes me feel good when I take that back to the city and I have like this little slice of the countryside in my fridge. So I think that's probably where that came from. But I think it's a lot easier now, is that these small brands that have probably exploded over the last 5 years, if you want to buy a rug from a small company, you can. If you want to buy a plant pot, you can. There's a lot of choice. But I would say that I still go to Bunnings, and I still go to Woolworths, and we have shopping malls around here in Melbourne as well that you'll go to because you need stuff. And I need, this is my boring life, I need to buy a couple of power boards, and I don't have a choice there. I probably could find a smaller company, but I also just need them. And so there's times that I'm not going to say that everything I do is small companies, but I'll do it wherever I get the choice.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for being honest.
Cool.
So what makes Ampjar different, really, other than shout out with the credit?
Yeah, so I think so for us, it's like we're kind of starting to move into talking about what we call karmic marketing. We've seen a world where brands want to shout out other brands. So brands love lifting up other businesses, and they know that there's a way that they can, if they say something nice about another brand, that brand will get value from it. That brand will get some of their loyal customers coming across. And the biggest thing I think we find is that when you buy something from a small brand, you do take a leap. So if I went to Bunnings and bought a power board, I know how this works. The power board has been gone through all these different rigorous tests and whatever else, and then there it is. And if it doesn't work, I'll take it back and they'll exchange it on the spot. No one's going to ask any questions, and we're done. When you buy from a small brand, you don't know the process. So it's a more of a leap of faith to say, I'm going to buy from you because your returns policy is probably not as good as a multi-billion or multi-million dollar company like Bunnings, but I want to support you. And so sometimes it's more of a leap of faith. So I think the people who shop with smaller brands have that built into them, where they've gone through something with this small brand. They've said, I've taken the risk and you delivered. Now I'm really happy about that. That meant something to me, that we've gone through something together. Now, if you recommend something to me, I listen even more because I trusted you the first time, I took the risk and you came through for me. So the way that I see it is these brands are really good at shouting each other out anyway. There's a notion of wanting to share the love anyway, but these brands also need to do the right thing for themselves. And so the way that we look at it is, what we provide at Ampjar is this kind of karmic marketing model where you can shout out other brands, and you should be doing it anyway because it's the right thing to do for you and your community around you. But what we want to make sure that happens is that you get value back in return. So you shout out brands, and you're not the one who sat there saying, oh, well, I'm the one who always does the shout outs. I never get it always seems to be that I'm doing 5 and then I get maybe 2 back in return. It shouldn't be like that. What it should be is that you shout someone out and then other people are shouting you back out in return, and that the infrastructure that we provide at Ampjar means that you can discover different brands to shout out, and then we make sure that the value that you bring to the party is what you get back in return. So we call it karmic marketing, and I think that that's starting to become a thing, and we'll keep on beating the drum of it. And we just want to make sure that when brands want to collaborate and they want to team up with communities, that we can help fuel that, and that they can get to a place where everything that they do comes back to them in return.
Yeah, amazing. Because as a small business owner myself, I guess it's easier for me to understand where other small business owners are coming from, and I could feel how they feel, how hard it is, to find customers. And I think whatever you're doing is really amazing. And I guess another thing is some small businesses, they actually don't have great, I would say, purpose, because some can be a bit funny. They will be like, okay, so we support the local communities or whatever. Have you found any brands that are actually just putting the fake part of it?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen it. I think there's the word community gets bandied around a lot, and I think people talk about it a lot. I wouldn't say that there's specific examples that I've kind of seen through it. But yeah, I think it's something that you could espouse it a lot. You could talk about how valuable community is, but not be someone who really backs it up. And I think part of what we're trying to do with Ampjar is not necessarily be conscious of that and try to play to that notion, but we want to make sure that even it's less about the kind of making sure that the bullshit's not there, but I guess it's making sure that that whatever you do is like how active you are is how active everyone else will be for you. So it's not necessarily saying we're there to police to make sure that everyone's doing what they have to do. For us, we're saying that it's not so much by design that other people aren't doing it. They just haven't prioritized it as highly as you have. So I'm intrigued though. I'm gonna like keep an eye out more for people who are doing the wrong thing intentionally. We're probably more looking at the other way, where people they just haven't got around to it as much as other brands, and we want to make sure that the ones who get around to it more get rewarded more.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's like a moral issue thing. So if that person is just doing it for the wrong reason, like you said, it's like a karma thing. Something will come back, you know what? So as you mentioned before, sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say that the karma thing is exactly what we're trying to make happen. So every time you do something, it's exactly what you get back in return. So yeah, that's the critical part for us.
So I was going to say, because you said you have twin girls, they are 5 years old, yes? Why are they studying Italian, by the way?
So my wife's family are Italian, and so we live in like the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and I don't think Italian is going to be a very useful language for them to know in the future, but I think it's a good building block kind of thing for them to have. But they should be learning Spanish or Mandarin at least, I would think. But yeah, for now, they're cute. They walk around doing little sign language and Italian. It's like, cool, that'll be great for when we go on holiday to Italy one day. And you can talk to some of your elderly grandparents who just don't know English. We can do that. But yeah.
Cute. So how have you been juggling between being a boss and being a dad since having Ampjar?
So we got lucky, I think, with the timing between our last business and this business. So the way that I see it is that, so basically I had a bunch of time there where I could really do what I wanted time-wise. And then of course, being someone who saw something and wanted to go and do something, it drags you back in, the work stuff really drags you back in. But I'm very present with our kids, and because again, we run a remote company, I can be at an office if I want to be at an office. I have an office, but equally I'll spend just as much time working from home because I want to be around. We're very grateful that they go to school now, because it means that we have to have time in the middle of the day where we don't get distracted and play cat board games with them. But I think that you just don't want to miss out on this time. So anyone who's expecting or got a little kid or wherever they are, you don't get that time again. And we've got twins, so we're not going to get it again. Like 2 is plenty for us. So we're not going to get this first 5 years back. And so I didn't want to be one of those dads. And I'd seen lots of them in the past, where those dads who they leave the house at 7 o'clock in the morning and they get back at 7:30 at night, and they don't really see the kids apart from the weekends. Like they maybe give them a kiss at night in bed, but that's not what I wanted to be. I wanted to be as active as I could and as present as I could. So I think the part that gives is probably mine and my wife's like time together because we're always both, and she runs her own business as well. We're always both working on the couch at 8 o'clock when the kids are in bed, and we have 2.5 hours before we can wind down for the evening. And so we'll spend a lot of that time working. That's probably what's giving at the moment. And then, I just didn't want to personally just lose out on this time, because I don't think we're not going to go through it again. So for me, it was about just trying to be really sensible about the balance.
I love it. Thank you so much for being so honest. Because the other day I was interviewing a writer, and she has a young one at home as well, but she didn't know how much time she needs to give up when, having a kid. And that is something that I really want to share with a lot of people, that if you decide to want to be a parent, because I hear a lot of people saying that, the kids will change their lifestyle according to what we want, but
Sure.
that's not really possible, is it?
I think that before anyone has a kid, their attitude is always, oh, wow, I will not do things like that. I will, when I'm a parent, I'm going to do things like this, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do this, and they're not going to have an iPad, and they're not going to know what this looks like, and all those kind of things. I think we're pretty good. We don't necessarily, I never take the kids to McDonald's or anything like that, but the girls have iPads, and they have since we had to do a flight with them when they were 18 months old. We had to go back we flew to Scotland and then to Boston. We had 2 weddings back to back. Wow. When they were 18 months old, and those iPads saved us. That was the difference. And so I think you can use tech to your advantage. You'll pay for it if you overuse it. So I think it's a balance thing. But yeah, I don't want people to be in a spot where they kind of come into parenting thinking the kid will just flex for me and it will be fine, because it doesn't really work like that. But people work it out. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah. Thank you again for being honest.
My thing.
Well, actually, for those who want to be a parent or want to have a family, what would be your number one tip for them?
So I didn't know where that question was going to go, but I had the same question from one of our daughters the other day, because she was reading a science book about how bodies work. And she was saying, so I know that daddy has the seed and it was like, all right. I'm checking out of this conversation. Let me go and get mummy and she can try to explain it to you. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Sorry, I completely forgot your question. What did you say again?
I said, what would be your number one tip for time? Sorry, that was so funny. What would be your number one tip for those people who want to be a parent?
Yeah. So I think the number one thing is, when it's time to work, you work. When it's time to be with the kids, you're with the kids, and you have to work that out with your partner as well. And it can't just be, all right, the guy goes to work and the mum does all the kid stuff. That's not how this stuff goes anymore. It's 2020. So the way I see it is, you can be sensible about how you do things. You've got to balance it out. And then the only way that it works is work time is work time, play time is play time. And if you decide to divide that up 50-50, great. If you decide to divide that up 60-40, 70, whatever it is, great. But just work, play, put your phone away. That's the only way it works.
Yes, I love it. And by the sounds of it, I feel like communication is very important. Plan things out, have a schedule is also very important, and also appreciation and understanding.
Yeah, I think understanding between the two parents, or whatever the parent structure is, you need to make sure that what you're doing there is really honest and open, and you're working it out together. Because there'll be times where I have to say, I got to go and do this. I'm sorry, I know that you did yesterday more, or you did whatever, I apologize, this will come back in the right way. I'm not gonna, I get it. But the other person needs to be strong enough to say, okay, yes, go do it. That's the only way that it really works.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. How are you guys dealing with COVID, by the way? The whole family.
So, it's funny because the kids, I think, really know more about it than you think they do. They really pick it up, and the kids talk about it all the time. And
is it being at home?
I think they do like being at home, because there's 2 of them and they're the same age and they can play together and they can constantly do stuff together. So that makes it really easy. I feel really bad for the people who have one 5-year-old and that 5-year-old doesn't have anyone to play with. Whereas our girls, you can say, you guys go and play, you can be Elsa, you can be Anna, like go knock it out and you'll be fine. But for us, we're a lot luckier than most people. And we have a house, we have a garden, we have room to play. So we're a lot luckier than many other people. So I think we're just fine.
Yeah, that's great. God bless you. Well, would you like to sum up Ampjar in one sentence?
Yeah. So one sentence, I really should have prepared this properly. We call ourselves a collaborative advertising community, which is a really long way, a really big word way of saying basically this is karmic marketing, where whatever you do is what you get back in return. And so this is about shouting out other brands, and yeah, everything you do comes back to you. So if that was a sentence, I'd probably have to write it down and then juggle it around. I'm not very good at thinking on my feet like that, but yeah, it's a karmic marketing platform where brands shout each other out, and everything you do, you get back in return.
There you go. You got it. Good job.
Okay, I'll try to remember that for another time.
Yes. Well, before I ask you my last question, is there anything that you would like to share or talk about?
I really enjoyed this conversation. I don't want to make this too sycophantic, but I really like what you're doing, and I think that that transition from brand to storyteller into community organizer, I think is really fascinating, and that's why I reached out to you, and I'm certainly glad I did. So I would say that I'm a fan of brands anyway, and one of my favorite things is when people one of my favorite things is when people reach out and just ask me about stuff and just get perspective. I love being a sounding board for people. So if anyone just wants to bounce something or ask me a question, I'm totally up for that. I'm always interested to hear about people's experiences and share what I know.
Yes, thank you so much for reaching out. I really appreciate it. And I will be leaving your details in the description below. So if those that are listening and watching that are interested, please go and have a look. So my last question for you is, how do you think we can help each other out right now in general?
A great question. So I think it needs to be done honestly. I think that, like you said before, when people are looking to help each other out as brands, the model here is that the biggest brands are getting bigger. And I saw something earlier in the week that Jeff Bezos will be the first trillionaire in the world. Like, that's crazy. And the problem is that in many places, Amazon is now the thing that when it comes to shopping, you go to Amazon first. And so that's a problem for small brands, and we don't want to get to a place like that. The way that the small brands win is they win by teaming up. And so the model that we're going for at Ampjar is saying, you don't need to go to a central platform like a Facebook or a Google and pay all the money to them to get reach to customers. What if you could go to other small businesses and say, I'm going to help you, you help me, we all help each other, this whole thing works out. No one's paying anyone. No one's like saying all the money's going to this central person who just takes all the cash and runs. What we're doing is we're organizing it. So we're trying to make it really easy. We charge $22 US a month to use it, and that's it. So it's a simple tool that helps people to help each other out. And so I just want people to do it more and more and more, whether they're doing it through Ampjar, but I love this notion of brands helping each other so that small brands combined will beat big brands, but big brands will always beat small brands if they're just on their own.
Yeah, you're right. I just want to say though, the intention is very important, because sometimes when people go on Amazon or eBay or whatever, they don't know what they're actually buying, and there's a difference between want and need. And when you support a small business, especially myself, like brands like myself, like I actually do a lot of research behind it. And that's because we really care about the community, and we care about the environment. Like, it's a whole lot of picture. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that.
Not at all. One thing we always look for is we look for a company's About Us page. The About Us page for me tells me more about the company than the homepage does. So when you're able to see what someone's real story is, I think that's really valuable. So I always look for that. And I think that if people keep their About Us page really telling their story, they'll find that really helps.
Yeah, you just gave a very valuable tip for those who want to have their own business. So please be aware what you put on your About page and be honest about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's it for us today. I really appreciate you being on here.
I loved it. Thank you so much.
I loved Pete's honesty. Did you love it as much as I do? Look, I think we should really all start being honest with each other. How are we helping anyone from pretending? You are not going to help yourself by not facing the truth, and you won't be able to help those people who might be in the same boat as you. So thank you again, Pete, for being so honest about everything. Being honest about being a boss, being honest about being in a marriage life and being a husband, being honest about being a dad. Thank you. Now, if you own a small business, a side hustle, a freelance, whatever you have on the side, I really highly recommend you to sign up to Ampjar. I personally am part of it too. And guess what? If you sign up now and put the referral code Babylon Grey, you will get free credits and a consulting session. Amazing! It is only $22 a month, and you get to connect with other people around the world, and you have this big opportunity to grow your business, to have exposure, and to get new customers. How amazing is that? And as you can tell, Pete is super passionate about helping others and helping more people. So what have you got to lose? Sign up now with the link in the description and use the referral code Babylon Grey and you will get a special treatment. Oh, and as Pete mentioned, if you have any questions, he can be contacted. His details are in the description below as well. Now, don't forget to subscribe, click the thumbs up button if you have loved it, and share it with someone because you never know what they're going through. And remember, you're amazing and you are not alone. Please click here to hear other small business stories. And I will see you in the next video.